Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of the Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have been a part of our journey for quite a while now, a long while. So we appreciate you all so very much, and thank you for having the faith in us to continue on for another year. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, for his contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro that you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. He also specializes in the horror genre, does a lot of great commission pieces and so on. So tonight, everybody, we're having another Valentine's open mic because, you know, we always have so much fun doing that. So I know. We actually like them as much as you guys enjoy them, just so y'all know. Because we could have been Valentine's Day, we could have played a pre-record tonight and had the night off, just saying. But no, we wanted to be with you fine people, just to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, and Valentine's Day is not an easy one to research.
Oh,
Can I add that? Because there's like 3 different stories.
It's a fun thing, though, because
Joe
and I did a Gray Zone on this, and it was titled "The Dark History of Valentine's Day."
Yeah.
And holy crap! I mean, it took me a whole probably 2 weeks, but man, I found a lot of stuff. I won't say that I didn't, but I think we had the most fun just looking at historic Valentine's Day events. There was like hundreds of those freaking things.
Yes, that I did notice. But when looking up the meaning and how it came about, there's 3 different stories out there.
There's lots, yeah.
There's 3 different ones that even the ones that are researching and go on YouTube and do these shows, they can't even give you an answer.
Oh gosh, no. You know what? There's a lot of great information, and everything goes back in time into history. But we have to have a bit of fun, though, before we start getting into all the Valentine's Day stuff. And I have to share this because it came up today. I subscribe to different sites and, you know, get regular emails. And I could not pass this one up. Okay, just sitting down, Bubbles. Let's wait for this one. Okay.
Yeah.
This woman has slept with 20 ghosts. And she enjoys it so much, she's never going back to men. But wow, I was kind of, and apparently she's like engaged to a poltergeist or something. So
there's
I don't know.
One lady out there who divorced a ghost.
Yes, I had to say it. So basically,
yeah,
she, you know, a lot of this people think this is like really spooky, and hers have been all very sexy, and she has very intimate encounters with ghosts. And just, you know, you guys could check this out on Ranker. I want to give them a shout out because this is like great.
Is there a sex tape?
Amethyst Realm claims to have, this is her name, okay, right there.
Wow.
Amethyst Realm claims to have sex
That's
with
a real name.
Yeah. So, you know, she said she could hear his deep, sexy, real voice. And yeah. So I had to. How can I not shout that stuff out? You know.
Thanks.
I know.
Oh,
right there.
Well, no.
Right there we go.
Yes.
Well, I know. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we need to share this with our people
shit.
because this is just too like, what?
Well, why get married?
I know. I know, right? So, but anyway, a lot of people chiming in.
Well, that's
I
funny
love
because I
it.
did say today they need to bring asylums back. I'm just saying, and that's just
Man,
another nail in the coffin for my idea. But
yeah.
yeah,
I think yeah. Just there. I'm just there. Man,
crazy.
after the few days I've had, I've just been like, I saw this and went, this is outstanding.
Ugh,
It's
ugh,
totally outstanding.
crazy.
Oh my God. So, okay. Uh, my mom called me that when I was born, but my dad said, no way on Amethyst Realm. Oh my
No,
God.
he preferred what,
You go.
like Rhodolite realm or
I know. So, I mean, there's lots of stuff going on. Very bizarre. I know. I know.
there's a
But
lot of bizarre people, they stopped with the asylums because of all the bad stuff that was going on, but I feel like we're at a time where we might need to bring that back to get people the care they really do need. And it's not for I'm not referring to her, I'm referring to people
the
who are very,
people.
very mentally ill.
Well, back in the day, I mean, a husband could commit his wife and children if he just, decided he wanted to switch things
Y
up.
well,
Off she
yeah,
goes to an asylum, and
yeah,
then you had asylum seekers in the way that you would have, let's say, really hardcore criminals claiming insanity. They would be put into these asylums because I've
yep.
investigated. I've been fortunate to go to a couple of these places, and I'll tell you, they would pretty much rule the roost with people who were very vulnerable
Well, that's what
in these
Waverly Hills
places.
is all about, right?
Mhm,
But I mean, in this day and age, it would be a different center. It would be a different health center, and I think that we're at a point in this world where it would probably help a lot of people.
mhm.
Just how I feel. I don't
Yeah,
mean the system from back then, but the system
mm.
that would be now, I feel would be very helpful. We got too many people who are in a really bad way right now. But
Well, I think that's probably why they shut down with everything that went on. It's just left a bad rap, unfortunately, and, yeah, I'm with Diane on this.
no
No lobotomy.
lobotomy, no. I'm talking
Mm,
about people who
yeah,
are incarcerated when they
yeah,
should be in an asylum,
mm.
not in prison.
Well, yeah, now
People
they've
like
got
that, that's what I'm referring to. And we wouldn't
institutions,
have
as they
hardened
call them,
criminals
right?
in there, and we wouldn't have, I think they would rename it too. I think it would be more
Well,
like,
they are like some sort of institution. I know there
wellness.
are,
Yeah.
but a lot of them are privatized, unfortunately. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's what I mean, though,
you
we
know,
need to bring back government ones. I think it's a world issue.
mhm,
It's just me.
not
But
wrong.
anyway, that could be the new they could start that next year on Valentine's, have it open for next Valentine's because a lot of stuff happens
Yeah,
on Valentine's Day.
I know, I know. Yeah, we don't want to talk morbid stuff, but
No.
just hitting on some stuff that sort of come up in the different feeds. Man, is there a lot of infighting in I won't just say, there's every little pocket, like, there's cryptozoology, there's a paranormal, there's ufology. Everybody's got a little bit of infighting here and there, but there seems to be a lot of extra stuff going on in the paranormal field. And I mean, I have to say, it's always been there for the most part. I think, when got started in it back in 2004, it was there just weren't as many groups around, or at least because social media was so limited, maybe it's just that we didn't see it all,
Mhm.
But now with social media, it's holy crud. I can't. It's almost like at least a couple of times a day, I am just seeing stuff going across the stream, and I'm thinking, what's happened to the industry, really? I mean, there's enough out there for everybody. That's a for sure. But the infighting is just, not cool. I think people have to try to find a way to work together, and that's not always easy. I understand. I mean, you know, I've worked with people where it's been a bit difficult, hence why I don't work with them anymore. And I won't name names, but it happens. Sometimes it plays itself out, and people grow one another, and that's what happened in
Some
my case with my ex partner, and I mean business
some people
partner.
just can't work on a
Yeah.
team. Some people are just not team players or some people want to always lead, and that's you can't do that. And I think the most important thing is knowing your worth to the team, knowing what you bring to the table, and
Mm,
focusing on that. And everybody's strengths are different.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think, as great as social media can be for some people, because for some people it's all they have. I get it.
Yeah.
Like it's only it's
It's
their world.
it is.
There really isn't. And I'm all for it like that.
I'm
But I
happy
also
for
find
them.
I had a lawyer friend of mine say one time, he goes, the problem with social media or internet on average is once something gets out there, it's never gone. You can go ahead and you can erase something. You can think you can erase it. It's never gone. It's cash. You can find it. And I mean, in Canada, they're hardcore about it. They will go after you. The legal system doesn't tolerate it because of all of those things. And
No, we have an internet unit department in the
yeah,
police.
they
Yeah.
don't tolerate it.
Internet
And
crimes.
people have to realize, it's just like, it could really come back and bite you in the behind, depending
And
where
be
you are.
careful what you say about other people who make a living too in the
Yeah.
public eye, because that becomes liable on defamation, even in Canada.
Oh, for sure.
So
For sure.
just be careful what you write on,
Mm.
on certain social media platforms.
Yeah, it's
Except
tough.
X, apparently you can get away with anything there. But
Yeah, it's tough. But you know what?
yeah.
Can we all just get along?
Yes.
Where have I heard that from? Can we not just all get along? I think there's enough out there for everyone. I think it's a wonderful field. I really feel that if people collaborated more, they would be further ahead. And maybe media has something to do with that, because so many people now, there's so many shows on looking for stories, and it's sort of become an every man for himself sort of thing. And not all groups. I mean, some stand much higher above others and have definitely put their time in. So kudos to them if you've managed to hang on to your integrity through all that. It's a great thing, because it's just something that seems to come and go, unfortunately. So I stepped away from that, and kind of happy.
I
So
can't watch any of that.
yeah, it
I
gets to
can't
be a
watch any
little
of
bit.
it. I just find it so boring.
I think when you get to a point where you start researching um, so much stuff, with the Gray Zone especially, it was a research show,
Yeah.
so it was
You really
all
enjoyed
research.
that.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
guests. It was all research, and it was probably
Mhm.
about 20 to 25 hours a week of research that went into every segment. And you learn a lot, and you realize just how big the picture is. It's so much bigger, and you just can't limit it all, I think, to one category when so many of them all interconnect. You eventually you're going to branch out, one way or another. You're going to branch out, because I really truly believe that they do connect. Like, it all connects.
Mhm.
So big picture, people, big picture. So you know
Very, very big.
very big picture, yeah. But it's an interesting journey. I love the research. I love learning. So
You guys need to put that show back on.
where do you want to start, Bubbles?
Hmm?
Where do you want to start?
How about just why we even have Valentine's Day?
Okay.
Hmm?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Oh, me.
You're on.
Well,
Yeah.
I've got notes because there's so many stories. Um, I understand there's a pagan festival in February, and I understand all of the Lupercalia and the Lupregi and all that stuff that we'll get into, but it wasn't always the Saint Valentine's Day.
Mm,
It was a festival for fertility
mhm.
originally. And it was very, very morbid. Um, it was
Oh,
gross.
those pagans.
Um, well, yeah, and of course we do know that the Catholic Church takes from the pagans a lot over the years and all of their festivals and trying to make things not. But they changed things and they took from the pagans because they were trying to recruit them into their own church. So by changing the names a little bit, but still, like honoring the solstice, the winter solstice, they can honor Saturn, we can honor Christmas. Like it's just, it's the same thing, but they made it so that it was much more acceptable to them. And then we're not going to get into the whole Catholic Church thing because we're going to get emails we don't want. Because when you look back, it's really hard to understand why or how this happened. I think a lot of it too, we don't understand because we have the internet now and we can research our own stuff. And when you think way back when, even before medieval times, it was, it's whoever they could sell themselves to. Anyone with anything, any story, any idea, any plot. It was the best salesman, the snake oil salesman.
Right.
And that's how people got there, because they couldn't, without trying, they wouldn't know if something was real. So there's stories on Cupid, and then there's stories on the fertility. Which one are we? Cupid comes into play, I think, a little bit later.
Yeah, and I also think it depends on which culture as well.
Well, I have a quote from, I'll say it's history.com. Sorry, I went out to eat and the salt, Michelle knows me, when I eat out, the salt makes my lips stick together and I can't speak. I should never eat out on show nights because seriously, my lips are stuck together. So I found on History Channel's website, they discuss the origins of Valentine's Day, a pagan festival in February, because February 14th was the middle of the month, being that most of the, for 3 years at a time, February ends on the 28th and every 4th on the 29th. That's another show. The calendars are another show.
Right.
So they figured this was the time that birds would start seeking out their mates.
Right.
And this is, and so they wanted to make something more of it and make it more special, but I'm getting it all confused. Let me just read this to you. So in the middle of February, to commemorate the anniversary of Valentine's death or burial, which probably occurred around AD 270, others claim that the Christian church may have decided to place Saint Valentine's Day feast in the middle of February in an effort to Christianize the pagan celebration of Lupercalia, which was a celebration of fertility. Now, did the pagans have the slaughter as well, the sacrifice?
Well, I think there are a lot of offerings. You know what I mean? Again, it depends, because the pagan culture, they were sort of like, they sort of went way back and they were all over the place. Everybody just assumes that, oh no, they were in like one area. They really weren't. You know what I mean? So
they do say that the Roman priests, members of I know people call them Luperci, it's Luperci.
But they were loaded with animal sacrifices. So
yes, and
lots of sex and blood.
Oh yes, an order of Roman priests would gather at a sacred cave where infants Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome, were believed to have been cared for by a she-wolf or lupa. Lupa is just Italian for wolf. The priests would sacrifice a goat for fertility and a dog for purification. That really bothers me. And then they would strip the hide into skins and dip it in their blood, and they called it a skin slapping, but it wasn't like that. They didn't go around beating women, but single women and women who were newly married would gather around them, and they would put this blood on them because it was said to have increased fertility and bring lovers together. And then later, get this, they would put their names into
a jar.
Yes. And single men would pick and they would unite and sometimes marry. What happened to the no sex before marriage thing? This is the Romans. These are Christians. So,
it goes back way before that. You can get into the Holy Land.
Don't come at me when I'm questioning the 10 Commandments. Don't come at me anymore.
Well, a lot of it's because they wanted to make sure that a woman could reproduce.
Yes.
And then a lot of times now, if that woman got pregnant, then they would marry them. Because if you married someone and she couldn't reproduce and leave you an heir, that was a problem in a lot of cultures.
Oh, especially around the on
I
the
know.
royals. Henry just took their
Ah,
heads.
I
But
know.
yeah, so it was during the Middle Ages before that you even had anything about you heard anything about the birds and the mating season and
Mhm,
making it somewhat romantic. It was actually first in France and England
mhm,
that started this, and it was considered a day for romance, and the English poet Geoffrey Chaucer was the first to record St. Valentine's Day as a romantic celebration in his 1375
mhm,
poem, Parliament of Fowls. Writing for this was sent on St. Valentine's Day when every fowl cometh there to choose his mate, meaning the birds.
mhm,
And
mhm,
they, even though there was Valentine greetings as popular as way back into the Middle Ages, it didn't really become a thing until
mhm,
England took it,
mhm,
and that's where they started.
mhm,
And then the whole chocolate thing is another story, because I just love that John Cadbury started this. He's the one who started the decorative boxes and the chocolates.
mhm. Yeah,
So cool. He was also the first one to make chocolate out of cacao beans, because before that it was Mesoamerica and it was drinking chocolate.
right. I like that too.
Well, I'm going to take you to Summer's because Summer makes the drinking chocolate. She has it in her new shop.
That
But
bounce off the walls. Yeah.
I know,
But
I know.
it goes back even before the ancient times, um,
Hmm.
before the Romans enter the Romans, because the Romans
Yes.
came in once the church started to amalgamate everything, right? But if you go
Yeah.
back to the time, we're going to go back to like Nimrod, believe it or not, and he was the son of Cush, grandson of Ham. So you're going way back, but but for those who aren't totally familiar, he was the great grandson of Noah, and he was known as let me get my notes, a mighty one in the earth and a hunter before God. He was a leader and you guys all know this. He was one of those, a leader of those who built the Tower of Babel and started his kingdom in Babylon. He was never supposed to be a king. Nimrod was also known as Baal, the sun god, in pagan beliefs. Baal
Yeah.
worship is disguised as Satan worship nowadays.
Yep.
He's at the top of the list of ranking demons, which is a lot of the pagan gods ended up on the demon list, just so you all know. So now you have the basic idea of that connection and how Nimrod is connected to the origins of Valentine's Day. It's because the city of Babylon, they celebrated the festival of Oimbol, which took place midwinter for the return of the sun, right? Like
Okay.
sun in the sky, sun, and the sun god being Baal. So beginning February 2nd, candles were lit to welcome the sun, and women began their purification process for the upcoming fertility rites. So
Still
hence the
fertility.
Romans, yeah, right? Fertility, rebirth, all things like that. Because you're coming in off of the long winter nights and the solstices, and you're coming into the spring, and love is always in the air in the spring, right? So
Which is, yeah, because everything comes back to life. See what I mean
exactly.
about there's like 100 stories. There are even
Yeah,
stories where Valentine's Day is connected to Satan. Like they're Lucifer. They
for
just
sure.
there's so
But but
many of them.
but so was the ancient origin, which is
Yeah. I
Tower
note
of
to self.
Babylon. That's like way pre AD, right?
Yeah. Note to self, never call someone a Nimrod. Again, the oldest known Valentine still in existence today was a
Mm,
poem written in 1415 by Charles, Duke of Orleans,
mhm,
not New Orleans, but Duke
right.
of Orleans, to his wife while he was in prison in the Tower of London following his capture at the Battle of Agincourt. All these names sound like Canada and they're in England. The greeting is now part of a manuscript collection of the British Library in London, England. And then several years later, it's believed that King Henry V hired a writer named John Lydgate to compose a Valentine note to Catherine of Valois. So it comes in, but I just wanted to make the point that it did start in England, believe it or not.
Mhm.
So England, you are responsible for all the commercial. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
All the
yeah, I
commercialism
think
of
I think
Valentine's Day.
yeah, I think the commercial part of Valentine's Day for sure, because there's such
Well,
ancient
Cadbury.
rituals. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
started it. And
Because
it was because of the
it's
war.
technically a neo-pagan celebration of ancient fertility. It's
Yeah.
way,
But
way,
there was a
way
war,
back.
and he wanted to, enlighten, and he
Hmm.
made these decorative boxes, and some people still have them. I wish I had them. They're so pretty. But
Right,
he used other people's artwork, like the vintage Victorian Cupid
right.
illustrations and cards and things like that. But the first Valentine's Day cards came out of England because there was a company that there used to be a lot of mail all the time, and it was always postcards, and people were getting tired of seeing of their letters being visual to anybody could read them.
Right.
So they stopped sending and stopped buying these postcards from this company. So this company was I can't remember the name of the company, but they created the envelope
Hmm.
and started making these Valentine images, and that's when it flew.
Right. Right.
So that's about World War One.
Right.
So early 1900s, and I'm like, oh my god, like when you see how, so yes, you can blame England for commercialism with the cards and the chocolate
Well, I know
coming out
even
of
into
England.
Victorian times,
Yeah,
they loved the macabre, and you would find that sort of stuff even through Halloween, through Christmas,
theirs
through
were,
Valentine's Day. It was always very,
yeah,
very dark, and it's interesting as to why that is so. It's supposed to be this really, it's a time of rebirth, and of
yes,
course,
Hallmark.
everybody
Oh my
sort of
god,
gets them
sorry,
together, but when you're
I'm
getting in,
I'm sorry, it was Hallmark. I don't know how I could have forgotten that. Thank you,
right.
Diane.
When you're getting into different, let's say, the symbols of Valentine's Day, of course, we always think of the rose, which is the worship of Venus. So, see, again, we're getting to Venus, the goddess of love and fertility and immortality and things like that. But Cupid goes back to, again, we're getting into Cupid and Eros. So, Cupid was given the power, of course, to cause love and begin or cease love. He's the Roman god of desire, technically, affection, erotic love, but he was also known as Eros, Eros. And it's believed that if he shot his arrow at any unsuspecting target, the victim would fall in love with the first person they encountered. But
Mhm.
Cupid is a Roman equivalent, I guess, to what would be um, equivalent to Tammuz, which is technically the reincarnate of Nimrod. So see how we go back, and Tammuz became like the god of the heart, and this is depicted in Egyptian fruit, example, Persia, known as the avocado, right? So it's a lot of little things, but allegedly the heart represents the image of, again, Moloch, Bel, the sun god, fire god. Moloch is an ancient god of child sacrifice. So you see how he fits in to to sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
So, and his idol, of course, he was a bull. The cultures would build these furnaces. It was crazy. But all of this, I mean, and by the way, Moloch worshippers are still allegedly active today. And that's a whole other show right there. But
Whole other
you
person.
see what I mean? How all of this stuff goes back to really ancient stuff. And when you think about it, how is a god of child sacrifice affiliated with Cupid? Like,
Different beliefs.
right?
Yeah, but
Like,
Cupid doesn't come in until way, way
but
later.
there's
And
but there's
Eros is
still,
funny that it's Roman because it's a very popular name in Rome,
well, it
Italy.
is, and
Yeah,
again,
even
that
though
was
it's
just a
Greek.
Roman version of it.
Yeah,
But Cupid, you're getting into, he's a time of he was a Roman god of desire. This is Roman times
yeah,
that he was very active. He was just the character that became part of the whole commercial side of everything
the
because he looked
cherubs.
all cute and stuff, right? They made him look all cute and fluffy, like a bouncy
And
little
chunky.
baby, and yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So, but I mean, technically speaking, not so much. not so much. You're getting back into some pretty dark origins with that. So why is he
Yeah,
depicted as a child? I think again, it's just being
because
commercialized because he
yeah, and
wasn't.
they say what was said is that it because of his from birth what they saw in him, and that's why the portrait comes from him looking like a child, because that's when they determined he was this god.
Yeah.
So they use that, the cherubs. And then you find the cherubs come in to art in the Renaissance. I said it like Hamilton does, the Renaissance.
Mm.
In the Renaissance, you'll see a lot of cherubs as well with Michelangelo.
Mm-hmm. I agree
These are
with this comment.
Frankenstein holidays put together by different parts of
Yeah.
history. Yes.
Frankenstein holidays put together by different parts of history. Whenever the church would come in and take over, a civilization, pretty much, they would always incorporate their belief systems, which makes sense technically because you want to keep people, to show that you are somewhat accepting of their customs, and that's every civilization. This is how it works, and unfortunately they tweaked it up to the point where it slowly starts to disappear. Believe it or not, if you really read through the Bible, you would see a lot of occult stuff in there and a lot of pagan stuff in there. It's all there. It's not like, don't just take our word for it, man. Pick up the book, read it, and you'll see, and just sort of go like, wow, who knew?
Yeah.
You heard it here. If you haven't heard it before, you're welcome.
We did that for you. But
yeah.
seriously, when I was looking into St. Valentine and seriously, and what goes on my phone, because you say seriously and serious thing, yeah. Anyways, I could have sworn I turned that gal off a long time ago. You come up with 3 different stories, but because 2 of them resemble each other so much, you can go with that one over the other one, but we won't get into that. It's too early to get into that. We'll get into that later as to why it was after called St. Valentine. That's where the church comes in. It has nothing to do with Valentine's Day before that. It wasn't even named Valentine's Day until the saint. Yeah. San Valentino.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then you've got your like who was, like who was he really?
Yeah.
Technically speaking, who was St. Nicholas? Or not St. Nicholas, St. Valentine.
Yeah. Well, which is funny because his name's not Valentine. He was Roman. His name was Valentino. But sorry.
Yeah.
I look at this going, why are we calling him Valentine?
There's multiple St. Valentines, including the decapitated one. That was the article I read. I was like, what?
Oh, decapitated. Yes, because different cultures they adapted this St. Valentine in their own cultures and gave their own stories. And some of them are different towns, so their story would change a little bit, but it was always Valentine, regardless of where the country was that celebrated, because the whole world does not celebrate Valentine's Day.
No, not at all.
It's not like, well, Christmas.
But the West
doesn't
loves
either.
anything commercial.
Yes, it does.
Everything commercial.
Yes, it does.
That's where we're sitting with it, right?
Do you think that started after World War I?
What, commercializing?
Yeah, a lot of stuff was commercialized.
I think so. I mean, that was a time of the Depression. I don't really think that there was a whole lot of
but like after, what I mean, in the years when everything started getting better and they were celebrating and partying, which would become another fiasco after that.
Well, I mean, the Victorians, celebrated a lot of that stuff. If you're looking at Valentine's Day cards and stuff, which originate and starts in like the 1400s, well, you go back, like you say, to the Middle Ages, it was after that when Valentines actually began to appear. The oldest one that exists even today, like you say, it was in a poem by Charles, Duke of New Orleans in 1415. And he wrote this to his wife while he was in prison in the Tower of London following his capture after the Battle of Agincourt. By the
Mhm.
17th century, Valentine's Day was been celebrated all over the world. So, you know what? I mean, it was there. Today, it's estimated that 145 million Valentine Day greeting cards are sent out every year. 145 million Valentine's Day cards
Are sent.
every year. That's what this said here. It's estimated that 145 million Valentine's Day greeting cards are sent out
You
every single
people are
year.
crazy.
And it says by 1840, Esther B. Howland began selling the first mass-produced cards in America. She
You
was known
people
as the
are
mother of the
crazy.
Valentine, and as she made these really elaborate cards made of lace, ribbons, and colorful pictures known as scrap. So she's also the mother of scrapbooking.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, that makes
Apparently.
sense because back then her Valentine cards looked like what we see as scrapbooking now. And
Yeah,
people use scrapbooking for journals now. They do
exactly.
both.
I know,
Yeah, see
right?
how many things are linked to it. It's just really crazy.
Yeah.
145 million. Wow. Yeah.
So
I made the card yesterday, Sabrina and I did it together for John. So
nice
like
though.
I just feel that it's Sabrina has always made cards for us and she's 26, my daughter, and she still does. And I love them because they're
Mhm.
like love notes.
Exactly.
That's what they are. They're literal love notes. She
Yes.
doesn't decorate. They're not fancy. It's exactly who she is, simple
Mhm.
and to the point. But anyways, yeah. So
Yeah.
I love
No,
them, and I do that for her. So yeah,
right. See, I love it. I love it.
yeah.
I think you have it's you have to get away from the whole commercial aspect of it. If you think about it, more money is spent Valentine's Day, when you think of all the dinners, and because a lot of restaurants will, oh no, you only have Valentine's Day menu and it costs both eyes out of your head. But you know what the most popular Valentine's Day world destinations are? Las Vegas,
Oh,
Paris,
yeah. Chapels.
Sweden, Rome, Venice, and Hawaii.
But Venice should be. Venice is the shape of a heart. If you see an aerial view of Venice, it's actually the canal is actually
Uh,
the center is a heart.
yeah,
And
which is nice.
that's the truth.
Right.
But yeah, it's one of the most romantic places in the world.
But the
I don't
first one
know
they have is
how
like
because
Las Vegas. How is that more romantic
yeah,
than Paris? Come on.
because well, Venice can at times smell like a sewer, just saying. But
Mm,
and yes, they're my people, but I'm
mhm,
just saying like
mm,
it's not exactly but
right.
I can see what they mean by it. You can get
Yeah.
Venice in Vegas. You can get Paris in
You can
Vegas.
probably get it all in Vegas for
Well, they have
sure.
those hotels. They have the Venetian, they have
Right.
Paris. You don't have to travel to Europe. You can just go to
It's
Vegas,
all
and you
there.
get
It's
the
all there.
chapel, and you get everything, and I'm sure there's probably some Switzerland
I
there too.
know. I
But,
know.
yeah, they have gondola rides there. I think but it smells like chlorine, but it's probably much more pleasant than than Venice in the summer
Right.
because that canal stinks, but
Right. Not
and
really putting you in the mood for love, but, um, then we've got historic Valentine's Day events. Now, there were hundreds of these freaking things, but I chose these. Pope Gregory VII excommunicates the Holy Roman Emperor Henry VI in 1076. This was on Valentine's Day.
off with your head.
900 Jewish people are burned alive in Strasbourg after being blamed for the Black Death in 1349.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. Yeah, dark, dark stuff. English Parliament puts Mary Stuart and Prince William III on the throne in 1689. Astrologer James Bradley presents his discovery of the wobbling motion of the Earth on its axis, 1747. See, historic events. The U.S. flag is recognized in 1778 on this day. Captain James Cook is killed in 1779. The Battle of Kettle Creek takes place in 1779 as well, on this day. Oregon becomes a state in 1859. Alexander Graham Bell applies for a telephone patent in 1876. Here's a big one for you, Bubbles. Jimmy Hoffa is born 1913.
Oh, for the love of God. There's a couple of mob connections on Valentine's Day.
Mhm. Uh, Arizona becomes a state, 1912. And here's a big mob connection. The St. Valentine Day Massacre in Chicago, where 7 gangsters were killed allegedly on Al Capone's orders in 1929. And one of my personal favorites, the original Dracula film with Bela Lugosi was released on this day in
Isn't that crazy?
1931. Right?
Isn't that crazy on Valentine's Day? Mind you,
I
wasn't The Exorcist released at Christmas?
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
the whole Capone thing, the funny thing is he was in a Florida court when that happened. And
Right.
another thing, doesn't Zach Bagans own that wall?
The which one?
The wall that they were
I think
allegedly
so. Yeah, I think it's at
I
the
think he
museum.
bought the wall,
Yeah, I
right?
think so. I think so. I
I
know he
don't know
investigated
if
where it was at one time, but
I
yeah.
now I don't know. I've never touched the wall. I've never seen the wall, but I imagine that a lot of that energy would still be on the property as well.
For sure. Because I mean, this is how many times have you guys heard us talk about this? When the spirit leaves the body or enters the body, you can imagine what kind of an energy transfer that is. Like what kind of an
The f-
imprint that would leave in time and space, a
yeah.
ripple effect, dimensional, especially with with guns and that's like
Well,
a ripple
they
effect.
saw it coming too because they were
Yeah.
lined up against the wall,
Yeah,
execution
exactly.
style. So they did see it coming. So that blood boiling would have happened long before they took their last
Exactly.
breath. Yeah.
So that, that is one hell of a residual imprint. So you can take the wall. It doesn't necessarily mean that the spirits are going to hang and be stuck to the wall. They're probably going to remain on the property where their bodies actually came to an end. I would think you might get one that's like, I'm going with that wall. I don't know. I
Mhm.
wouldn't go with the wall. Personally, I would stay put on the land if I was,
That's what I was thinking personally. I
yeah,
thought this is the wall. I don't know unless it's just something for him that he wanted. I
yeah.
don't know how he obtained it. I don't know how he purchased it. I don't know if he bought the land
Well,
and then got the wall. I have no idea how he did it, but he has a
mm,
lot of stuff in that museum.
yeah. I mean, it is a museum, and it's cool for people to go and be able to see these things that they may. It's
Mhm.
hard to go around to all these different places and see everything. So he's managed to like many museums is you bring things to one place where people can see it. So it
Mhm.
provides a service, and people love the whole thrill of it. And again, I kind of wonder if it goes back to that whole tulpa thing, where because you're in this place with all of this stuff, and
Yeah.
let's say there's nothing with the wall. Let's use the wall as an example since we're talking about it. So let's say you there's nothing in the wall, and people are fixated on the wall because 7 guys were killed there. Um, are they, with their mindset, essentially creating an energy? Like, how many people create energy in that place just by
And only 6 died there because there was one gentleman who I'm gonna call him a gentleman because I don't wanna call him a mobster, we don't know, who actually was shot 14 times but didn't die till he got to the hospital because the
wow,
police
that's
got
staying
there right
power.
after.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this was Capone's rival. It was his garage. It
Mm.
was,
Right, right.
um, but yeah, so they tried to get stuff out of him while they were working on him, but
Mhm.
he wouldn't give up anything, and that's mob code
Mm.
as well. Um, he's not gonna say anything because there's still people left behind. Not everybody was there that day that was supposed to be as
Mm.
well. So this was more of a message hit, but they did take
Mhm.
out 6 souls there, and one went to the hospital. So I wonder sometimes, does his soul haunt the hospital or does it go back? That goes through my mind. These are the crazy
If
things that go through my head.
my belief is, if you don't know your dad, you're probably gonna just you may stick around where you die thinking, "What am I doing here?"
Yeah.
But let's just say he had time, because I mean, he experienced it. He didn't die right away. He was aware of what happened to him. Would
Yeah.
he go back to the place where it happened? Would he go back to try to take revenge on those who did it to him? try to get some
Or
information? If you're stuck, would you go back to your family? I don't know. Where would
or
you go
would
if
you
you were a
just move
ghost?
forward being happy that you got out
Yeah,
of it? Because
I
I
know.
don't it
Yeah.
doesn't mean he was a mobster. He could have been a mechanic that worked there. They just
Mhm,
lined up these people early in the morning and took them out.
mhm,
But often wonder that because he had enough breath in him to say no,
mhm. Yeah,
for to
he's
the
well
police
aware.
officers questioning him. So it makes me wonder if he indeed went back, or I need a photograph of him. I need to tap
If
it.
you were a ghost, where would you go? If you were grounded, where would you go?
Not into the light. 'Cause I don't wanna come back. I'm just telling you that now.
Yeah, there's a show and a half, but yeah, right?
Oh
So,
my
yeah.
god.
No, I
Um,
get it.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't wanna go back to the place. I'm not that kind of person, though.
But you see, that's the same idea as cemeteries.
Yeah.
People go, "Well, cemeteries are haunted, these spirits are still there." I
Yes.
find that if you're aware, like, if you don't know you're dead, you might hang around your body, but there's still a degree of common sense. It's just like you see your body's not moving, you're gonna kinda go, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go home and see what's going on." Like, people not necessarily going to hang around the cemetery, but what does hang around the cemetery are things that like to feed off the
And
energy of
it
the
is a what.
grieving
Yes.
people, I think, or
Yes.
even like thrill seekers who want a good scare. I don't know.
Yes.
Like I wouldn't hang around the cemetery either. I do it as living beings because I really like cemeteries. And it's not just being weird, or well, okay, it's being weird, but hey, the Victorians love to have picnics in cemeteries. I'm not Victorian. I love to have picnics in cemeteries.
We grew up that way, that it
I
was
know
okay to take them in. Yeah.
it's no big deal. Like as a youngster, I didn't have fear of stuff like that.
No. I would often, like, just sit in front of my mom's grave and, like, with coffee or whatever and talk to her, but
But
I
that
knew
makes
she
you
wasn't
very
there. I knew she wasn't there, but it was for me.
yeah.
It was for
But a
me, and
lot of
it's funny
times
because
it is. A funeral
yeah.
is for the
But
living.
you know who does often, not necessarily haunt out of, choice, is children's spirits. That I did see a lot of in Salem because it was so much tragedy
Mm,
on the Mayflower when they came in sick and babies and children were dying and they were burying them by
mhm.
the dozens every week.
Sad. Yeah.
And, that I did notice there was a lot of child spirits there, but I think it's not something that you can generalize. I think it depends where and what happened and when
Mm,
it happened,
right.
and I find that people who have died in the last 50 years, you'll see less of them
Mhm.
in spirit than those who died years and years before that.
If they're
And
aware that they've passed, I think so.
yes,
If they're
and why
stuck, you're
is
stuck
that?
for a reason, if you don't know what's going on,
Exactly,
right? Right.
and why is that? Because we know that we don't have to stay behind, and I think that comes with the new age and
Well,
everything
yeah,
after as
I
well.
think in this day and age, with media being what it is, being so communicative about it, with the internet being so communicative about it, if you were somebody who
Yeah,
passed in the age of all of this technology and all of this stuff, you would know. But
no.
I mean, not only would you know you don't have to stay here, but you know to have a lot of fun with all this technology.
Yes.
I would be just like wreaking havoc on
That I
people I
would
love
do. I
in a
like,
fun
I
way
would
though.
definitely come back and say, "Hey, I'm good,"
Yeah,
break a few
right.
things and shatter a few things, or maybe turn on the radio. That seems to really get John's goat. It scares them. But, like,
Okay.
I would probably do stuff like that. But I don't I like I said, and you don't I could say that saying if I died a natural death, but I don't know if I would do that if I was hit by a car or if I was murdered. I don't
Mhm.
know. I think if I was murdered, I'd have to say I'd probably come back,
Well, then you fall
you know?
under unfinished business. So
Exactly.
you would want to maybe come back and communicate with somebody, say, "Hey, this person killed me," or
This is
"Hey,
what
the
happened.
world is in the clock."
Yeah.
Like you would want to somehow finalize things. A lot of
Yeah.
spirits stay behind because they're not done yet. They still have to, they still have messages. They still want to let people know, this is what I was thinking. This is why I did it. Or this is a person who did it to me. And this is why this person did it to me, for example.
Mhm.
Like it's just if you're murdered, you want to tell, like my ex-colleague and I, we had worked at a location and the woman had been murdered and it was a women's shelter. And for 2 weeks it went unnoticed, believe it or not. Like you're in a women's shelter, but they were all apartments. And so by herself. And it wasn't until they could start smelling something that they realized something was wrong. That woman told us who killed her because that guy was like coming around trying to be all concerned and it was like a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And you know what? We the person who brought us in to investigate, we got that information, we relayed it, and we just went, okay. And he amazingly, first off, the only reason we were brought in is because there was paranormal activity going on while they were trying to clean the place up after the coroner had been there. This is what these guys do. If they were a cleanup crew for, there was not much left after 2 weeks in a hot summer. So I'll leave that right there. But we showed our due diligence. Well, this is, you called us, which was extraordinary to start with, and gave him the information. He went and he gave it to the police anyway. And
Mhm.
he thought the most they're going to do is think I'm crazy. They were already looking at the guy. And she gave enough information.
They couldn't close their eyes to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they kept the investigation going and they knew where to go with it and
Yeah.
they were able to arrest him. So you see, sometimes through the most peculiar ways, they will go to a medium or they will go to anybody and find a way to communicate. And she was completely at peace after that. She was just went, and it was beautiful to see. But she would not leave until she got her information. I'm like, okay, we understand.
It's wonderful because she probably did that because this was a person who was capable of doing it again.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
she probably stayed around to get that message out so that the next person, and I believe that she would know who that person is.
She
And,
did. And he was looking
yeah,
for money. Like he was tearing apart some of the furniture and it
uh,
was crazy. It was crazy. But
yeah.
it just goes to show you like
There's no
there
such thing as a perfect murder. Bobby Brown says it all the
ah,
time. He says it all the time, and he's right. There isn't.
exactly.
It always
Exactly.
comes back.
Let's hit some comments.
Diane, hi Diane, says my friend hangs out around the guy that killed her, scares him, etc. I knew them both. I'm sorry that you had lost a friend that way,
That's
but I'm glad that
terrible.
she scares them. Hi son. Or go haunt where they lived, more likely.
Probably
Yeah.
trying to reach out to their loved ones.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
sometimes it's just a comfort for them too to be back where
yeah,
they were. Diane continues, he's moved 3 times. She still plays his guitar late at night, etc. Noise, clocks, gong.
I say good for her, but
Me too.
in the same respect, I
Mm,
feel that she could, it would be nice if she could move onward. You could still come back after, you've moved over. You just come back without all the baggage, so to speak. But then you find when you do go that none of it matters anymore. You can't take the baggage with you. That's the
that
thing.
sounds like she hasn't ascended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're too
A real
fixated.
Pisces. I'm a Pisces too. Yeah.
Yeah, and people are just very, very fixated on that.
Mhm.
And it just reminds me of a story that Wayne had told me. He's not in the chat right now. But his mother, she honestly, the woman took her last breath and then all of a sudden went, came back. And I mean, she was silent. He goes, I thought for sure that was it. And all of a sudden pops up in bed, like somebody gave that woman a second chance because of the type of woman she was. I won't get into that. But
Yep.
she went on for the following months and she'd say, I don't know where that train is. I'm sitting here with all my bags on the platform and they're telling me I can't take them and blah, 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 blah. And Wayne, though, he's understanding. He's going, oh, wow, maybe you just got to leave the bags here. Anyway, she was given about 4 months, 5 months to right her wrongs and was having all these conversations with all these spirit individuals and then died peacefully in her sleep. I'll add event like, when her time finally came and she made her peace. But that woman, for the amount of times she used to go on about her bags and waiting for the train, and they told her repeatedly that she could not take the bags with her, I thought was a really interesting metaphor, like
Metaphor, yeah,
interesting
very
story,
much.
right?
Because
As
in
to
life
how
we
we
say
can't take,
baggage.
yes, baggage. But
Yeah.
to her, she's waiting for the train. She's on a platform. She's got her bags. She can't take them. They won't let her. They're telling her that, you can't take everything. You need to, so
Maybe she needed to fulfill the remainder of her contract.
well, I don't doubt that at all. I just find it so interesting how they use or she used the bags and getting on a train to go to her
I
destination. And they're
agree.
saying, you can't take the bags,
No, it's very fascinating.
right?
Yeah,
I
it's a
know.
validation in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hi,
Adrian.
Adrian. My late husband said he was going on a train trip before he died. I'm sorry for the loss of your
Oh,
hubby.
let's see again with the train.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I felt when I had my NDEs, I felt like I was crossing a bridge.
See, that's
Yeah, I think it
interesting.
depends, I don't know, on your experience, but every time I had it, it was like a bridge leading to, but I didn't see the bridge. It just
Right.
in my mind I knew I was walking on one. But
Right.
I see it as a metaphor of bridging one side to the other.
Right. The but see, and
Yeah.
that's how that's how you it was a represented or a representation to you
And
of
I
what
was
that is.
sent back.
Yeah.
And it's 12 years. Let's hope I have another 12. Let's hope that I don't go back.
Now,
But like,
now, now,
because we
now.
do, like, I have a belief that we have some kind of contract and written story that we come down here
Mhm,
and down here or next door or wherever we are
mhm.
to complete as lessons. And then I believe that we also have free will that interferes with it. And that's why we continually come back. And that's why I said I would not walk into the light because I don't want to go back to school.
Well, I
Literally.
mean, you can reincarnate anywhere as well. There's nothing saying it has to be here.
Yeah, but
I think this was
maybe
just
we
like
don't like the other places either, though. How do we know? Like, why would we pick here?
because we
Like,
can't remember. Maybe we chose here for a reason, like I don't know. I just think that they stuck us in the sandbox for time. We just don't all know how to play well together because this is really like,
it's
it's a
horrible.
hard place to be. Life is, don't get me wrong, life is beautiful. I'm glad I wake up every day. I look at the people around me. It's just like I made it. I made it another day. Some
Mhm,
people aren't so lucky. And I've seen too much of that lately. And it makes you ponder a lot and question things a lot. And
mhm.
you know you just realize like you don't I always say don't waste your time on things that don't matter, on people who don't jive with your vibe, as I say, and just find another way. Do what makes you
I
happy because it's at a point right now where, man, it is a good thing just to get up every day, face another day, and spend it with the people you love.
Yeah, absolutely. Very fortunate that way and very grateful. I think sometimes some of our lessons might be that we have to deal with those people, and that could be part of the reason that we're here. Maybe we're here to assist them, not necessarily.
I think to a
It's
degree, yes. I think
Yeah,
to a
it's
degree, yes,
really tough.
but free will, I don't know. I always said that this year, because the last year was very hard. It was very, very hard, like losing my mom. That was a complete
Yeah.
shock, but it is what it is. And it's still, so people I see still
And you're
people
coming up on
dropping.
that anniversary.
Absolutely, that too. But I also know there's free will. So I ponder, if somebody, whether you're family or whether they're friends, associates, work partners, whatever the case may be, if you cannot make it work, then just walk away. Because honest to God, you will be much happier in the long run. You don't know if you're going to be here. Like our neighbor passed away. It's just beautiful artist. I mean, this woman
Mm,
had stuff in galleries, and she was just what I call a really, truly amazing human being. I'll always say, I love you. You're a good human because, oh my God, some people are just they're nice people, but they're not necessarily a good human. And
Mhm.
we all have that part of us that we're a work in progress. It's why the hell we're here, because we're a work
Yeah.
in progress. But
Mhm.
some people have it better than other people, and that was really difficult for only 2 weeks ago. So we're just sort of we feel that loss because that energy's not there anymore. So you
No,
could come
it's
out every
hard.
day, she'd be in her gardens and be, "Oh, hello,"
Yeah.
and she was so sick, and yet that woman always smiled, and she was always kind, but she was the first to say all the time, she goes, "I just don't allow negative people in my space," and, I was just like, "Okay, that works, that fits." It's, to each their own. It's not so easy to do that though. She was very fortunate. But she said, she goes, "I come from a world of artists. We're all very hoity-toity, but we're all love and light." And everybody's like, you know, I'm just like, so almost like a, what do you like a bohemian type of boho love and light flower child? Like how's the best way to describe you? And she says, "Yeah, probably like that." So,
Yeah.
I love it. But I just find that, man, be happy that you can wake up every day and that you have people who love you and that you have, people who want to spend time with you, because otherwise it's just, you know,
It's funny because I used to spend my life a lot differently before having a child. I was a lot more reckless in the sense that I liked doing extreme things. And my goal was always to jump out of a plane. And
me
then I
too.
remember getting pregnant and I'm like,
I couldn't do
oh,
it.
okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll just wait till after the baby. And then it's like
No,
she's a year, 2 years. This is
you
24 years
realize
ago.
it's
She's
not a good
26. And
idea.
you're like, yeah, this isn't good. This
No,
isn't something I should be doing. I mean,
no.
up until um I'd say 5, 6 years ago, I was going to do the walk. You've heard me say that 100
Mhm.
times. I want to walk around the CN Tower. I want to do a fundraiser for Kidney Foundation, blah, blah, blah. And John just looked at me and he goes, what if you fall? I go, what it? And then I went, oh,
My life insurance agent is a friend of mine. He goes, "Don't be silly now." I'm
yeah.
just like, okay, Mr.
Well,
Logical.
I don't think it's dangerous because no one has
Mm.
died from doing that walk around the CN Tower in Toronto. No one's passed away yet. And I think it's thrilling. And like base jumping, no, but am I afraid of heights? No.
Mm.
So like, yeah, crazy kind of in the sense that I've raced when I shouldn't have with
How many times do
cars.
I say, live your best life, live your adventure, just
Don't
have
have
fun?
children. Yeah, but don't have
It's a game
children.
changer for
Well, it
sure.
is the very much for me, it was like the
Right.
the
Me too.
fast driving stopped,
Mhm.
well, even before I got married, the racing stopped because I
Mhm.
would do a street race.
Yeah. Was
But
doing that at like 16.
yeah, well,
So,
yeah, I did it without a license, I'm
I
just
race at
saying, but
Cayuga.
well, see,
So,
you had Cayuga in Toronto, we just had the streets. Like
yeah.
it was in the middle of the streets.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's long story in a different show, and I probably still could get charged for it. So let's not talk about it. But
Right.
yeah, you really, for me, anyways, everything changed for me
Yeah.
after I had her. All of a
Mm.
sudden, that part of my life that I would have been more in that extreme sport, like the snowboarding from higher cliffs and
Mhm.
things like that, even skiing will not happen
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I know someone who went skiing and her
Mhm.
lung was punctured her first time
Mhm.
because the way she fell in the ski. It
Yeah, it's
happens.
dangerous. Yeah.
And I think, no, I've got a child who needs me.
Mm.
So it is different. You live for different reasons and you're grateful for different reasons
Mhm.
when you have a child. But I got to tell you, if I didn't have her, I would have been on that tower and I would have jumped out of that plane. That's just who I am. But I
Mm.
will not get on a cruise ship. Titanic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. There we
Just
go.
saying.
Uh,
Titanic. We can do a show on all the ships that sank and all the spirits with that. Just
mhm.
saying. They just recovered new footage of the Titanic. They're showing it now, and there's
Mm.
skeletons in it.
Oh, boy. Well, we know that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We know
Diane,
yeah, go ahead.
thank you. Diane says, I found a lot of people I know or have met are from past lives. You often recognize them. Yeah, I think so.
And so
And Sundragon says, I agree, Diane. We recognize their soul energy, right?
right.
Lady Spider Witch, hello. I have a lovely book, The Ancient Celts by Barry Cunliffe. It does mention that the ancient Celts did celebrate
In bulk.
Imbolc
Yeah, in
in bulk
February.
in
Yeah.
February. The Druids played an important role in it, and sacrifices too. See, it's like
It
everywhere.
was widespread. I mean, you
Yeah.
know what? It was part of the ancient worlds, sacrificing. I mean, go back to Abraham, trying to, it was ready to sacrifice his only child until God says, "Oh, no, I was just kidding when messing with it. You don't have to do it." No, really. But it was kind of,
Yeah.
it was kind of like that.
Push him off the
It goes
cliff.
back a really, really long, long ways. And I think that's
But
part
did
of
that
this
happen?
metaphorically. It's in the Bible. I'm just saying.
But
But
did it?
sacrifices.
Why would God ask for a sacrifice? Like, see, there's a million
Well,
questions for me
can we
right
go
there.
back to guys? Just go back and like look at the Atlanta show we just did. Guys, just get into like Gnosticism a little bit. Really read, and you'll find some things that might leave you sort of gobsmacked, going,
Yeah.
I did not see that coming."
No.
So there's a lot of stuff in there for sure. But
Yeah.
you know,
It's a tough one for me. And that, I think we're living in a world where we're questioning everything too right now, because there are so many falsehoods, and with the internet you can't believe everything. And
well, you can't, but that's in the Bible, so to speak. But there's
Yeah.
so many writings that are starting to come up, and people are starting to do, because of the internet, they're starting to do a lot more research. And I mean, it's all right there. But if you go back to January 17th with Michael LaFlemme, and he talks about Atlantis, there
it's on
was some
SoundCloud.
information in that show as it went along that might explain why we have this jealous and vengeful God. Maybe I'll leave it there, because again, it's just it's yeah, one person's history, but it is a Gnostic belief system, right? So that goes way back. So leave it right there. Anyhow, why don't we do an early sponsor and station ID, and then we could
Sure.
just continue on.
No problem. Let
Right.
me just get to the page. No, that's not it.
Uh-oh.
You
Whoa.
gotta love when you can't see your own screen.
That's a bass.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It is. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 107.7 FM, as well as on the Gulf Coast on 105.3 FM. We are live on the Roku channel, and they archive us as well. No guests tonight. We are talking all about Valentine's Day. It's open mic night. Was he a saint? Wasn't he a saint? Where did it start? Why is there so many stories? If you're just tuning in, no worries. You can stream our archives on any platform you normally use. Search United Public Radio and then The Outer Realm to find us. Remember to click like and subscribe. Add us to your playlist so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, kindly share us with your friends and family. A huge thank you to, let me get my cup here, Folgers Coffee. Thank you for your continued support and sponsoring our show from day one. And we hope that this is an everlasting relationship. We adore you. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Our promo media, our fabulous banner, is courtesy of Steve McGinnis, horror illustrator, rather. He's a fantastic artist, and he also creates commissioned pieces. And Michelle said pet pieces too, which I think are so sweet. He can be found on Facebook. Thank you so much, Steve, for your contribution and for your time and all of your beautiful work that you shared with us to help us continue to promote ourselves every day. Our intro and outro is courtesy of Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, award-winning composer, vocalist, and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, stream on any platform, and find him on social media on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, Justin. Also, Justin has his music available when you're creating stories on your social media. So look him up. You can hear his clips. And of course, his great creepy videos are so cool. Lastly, give us a like and subscribe and share with your friends and family, especially if you're watching us right now on Facebook or on YouTube. Click it right now. We're watching. Click it right now. Thank you.
There we go. I'm watching
Lips
you.
stuck together,
Yeah.
salt. I don't
Oh,
use that much salt. So when you go out to eat, it's like, what the really?
I know. It gives you pucker power.
Right?
So
Like it's just crazy. Click.
thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you. I would hope so, Steve.
Oh my God. You know, it's always interesting to see
Smash that
but
like button.
smash the
Thank
like button.
you.
Yeah. There we go. What he said.
Yes. For that, I'm buying the first Fat Bastard. It's
Uh-oh.
opening soon beside me, Steve. So gotta get a burrito in there.
Oh God, burritos. I'm so good with that burrito.
No beans.
Oh my God. I'm always interested in the different folklore around certain holidays where they stem from. I find that this one is the one that just doesn't get a lot of attention. It does, commercially speaking, but everything is based on something ancient, and there's just a lot of stuff that is kept from us. And again, when you look at, like Amelia said, there's like 30 different versions.
Yeah. Of Saint Valentine, and he wasn't a saint when it happened.
No. So how do you get it straight? So here, I'm just going to click on something right here.
Yeah. Research.
Well, it's important. Yeah. I just clicked on it. What? Oh, come on. Where'd it go? I thought it would have been great. It goes, what do we do in the name of Saint Valentine? So who was this saint of romance? And then I click on it and it's not here. So we're being duped. And mysterious saint, what do we do? Patron saint shrouded in mystery. Catholic Church recognizes at least 3 different Saint Valentine or Valentinus, all of whom were martyred. One legend contends that Valentine was a priest who served during the 3rd century in Rome, when Emperor Claudius II decided that single men made better soldiers, and those with wives and families, he outlawed marriage for young men. Valentine, realizing the injustice of the decree, defied Claudius and continued to perform marriages for young lovers in secret. When Valentine's actions were discovered, Claudius ordered that he be put to death. Still, others insist that Saint Valentine of Terni, a bishop who was a true namesake of the holiday, he was also beheaded by Claudius II outside of Rome. How the heck did Claudius get 2 guys named Valentine? Like, was this a common name or what? Back in Italy? Like,
what? Valentino is it would come from the Venetian region.
Right.
But the whole thing with that story, and then I've got a third one where he said he was imprisoned.
Yes.
And his jailer's daughter, and then there's a story of it's a jailer's son. So that changes as well. But those 2 stories out of the 3 that I found were the ones that were most alike, just depending on what town was giving that story outside of Rome.
So see,
would tell you if it's a female or a male.
Right.
So I don't know if it's
You've
even
got
a
3
real
stories,
story.
and then that one of those stories has 2 different scenarios. So
and he wasn't sainted until after. Because because he, before his death, it's alleged that he wrote her a letter signed from your Valentine, which it wouldn't say that. It would say from Valentino. So directly translated, it is going to sound crazy. But in Italian, it actually means from, love Valentino or from Valentino.
Right.
So the legends are murky. The stories all emphasize his appeal as a sympathetic, heroic, and most importantly, romantic figure. And by the Middle Ages, perhaps thanks to his reputation, I'm going to call him Valentino, would become one of the most popular saints in England and France. Not even in Italy
Not even.
Where he died.
Poor guy. There's a good comment.
Yeah,
Hello,
it's just
Pablos.
saying. Thank God my mother didn't name me Valentina because that was a close one. Okay, Pavlos, hello. There must be a Vatican historian out there that can shed some light on all of the pagan practices that were co-opted by early Christians. Wishful thinking, lol. That's what I was thinking while I was reading it. I'm going, yeah, okay. I saw
The whole wishful
yours.
thinking part. Yeah. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're running. They're just all they're killing our lines. They're just flooding them right now, just dying to tell us.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that, if it even exists at the Vatican now.
I mean, they've really taken, they've really taken it out of where its origins were, that's for
Yeah.
sure. It's like the whole St. Patrick's Day, right? Like that's a whole other thing
St.
too.
Patrick was Italian as well.
I know, it's true. So you see,
Yeah.
like we'd all be having to like to talk about that maybe next
Yeah.
month.
Well, I think that's
we're able.
I always
So,
say, because I have a friend who's Irish, and I always say to her that a lot of our culture is the same
mhm,
in the families.
mhm,
The cultures are very similar in the
right,
way they raise their families, and we always laugh about it.
right.
But yeah, and I'll say Patrick was Italian, and it's a message that goes to each other every
It's true though.
St.
Yeah,
Pat's Day. We do
I
this
know.
every year,
It's
and
true.
she'll say no, and she'll
Lies of
send back
history.
St. Patrick is Irish.
Right.
But
No,
yeah, so
no, no.
yeah,
There's so
lies
many
of
embellished
history.
tales with
Well,
that,
it's
but
because of
they're
his
awesome. They're really
he
good
really
stories.
was born and raised in Italy.
Mhm.
I don't know how he was sainted. I have no idea. I don't know the story of
We'll
St.
do a
Patrick.
show. We'll do a show in
St.
March.
Patrick.
We'll figure out which day
I
we're
think you're
we're
already
going to
booked.
do it.
I think you've already booked guests.
No,
Oh,
we've
it's
got some.
not. St. Patrick's Day is on a Sunday.
That's okay. We'll work it
Do it the week
close.
before.
Oh, it depends. Only a couple of days. We'll look at one and
Yeah.
we'll have fun with it. What does St. Patrick's Day fall on? Which
A
date?
Sunday, 17th.
The 17th. So let's go ahead. Let's do it on the 13th.
Okay, that's what I
Okay.
said. You can do it the
Okay,
week
guys.
before.
There you
Okay,
go. That'll
open
be the
mic.
next. That'll be the next open mic night.
Let's hope St. Patrick has more than
Yeah.
St. Valentine,
We'll see.
and that his
He's got a
stories are
lot of
not
really good stuff. No, some of the stories
not
are
6 in
amazing.
a row.
Some
Not
of the
6
stories
different
are
stories.
really, really amazing. Because again,
He
we
got rid of
covered it on the
snakes in
Gray Zone, and we
Ireland.
had a lot of fun with that.
Is snakes
Right.
another word or a metaphor for the government?
Yeah. I don't know, man.
See where
I
I'm
don't
going?
know.
This is bad. Stay off X. Stay off X.
Oh,
But yeah, he was Italian as well. But I think back then, you were either Greek or Roman or Egyptian. Like there wasn't that, like how many, or French. Like there wasn't.
there were lots. Yeah, no, there were lots. There were lots. I mean, there's a lot of ancient cultures that I mean, they're everywhere. But
No, I know, but the
who did you
Vatican
hear the
mostly
most?
says,
We grew up hearing about the most prominent ones, of course, but
yes,
you know what people learn where people learn the most about the history of a lot of these different countries is through haunted shows. I hate to
yes.
admit it, but so many people, I remember
There's a
reading an
lot of
article
information.
recently about this, actually, maybe a couple months back. So many people watch these different paranormal shows. Like on this side of the world, we get some of it. And the other side of the world, they get even more, like England and stuff. They get even more. And they go over, I mean, a good show will give you the history of a location before you start to investigate it. I mean, I used
Yeah.
to teach this to kids when I did events that if you like spooky stuff and you like talking about ghosts, you have to understand the history of it. So you have to like history and you have to kind of like science because the history will help you understand, people who live there at the place that you're going to visit. In this case, we were in a castle and I'm just like, well, this is a story about the family that was here. This is why it was built. This is the stuff that happened, and this is what's happened since then. So this might explain why the people who are here are doing the things that they're doing. And then when you talk about science a little bit, I guess it brings you into parapsychology a little bit for a little bit more logical stuff, but it also explains maybe about some of the equipment, whether it's for theatrics or whether it's for actually being able to measure, different frequencies and EMF and things like that and voice recordings. So it gave kids an understanding at a very young age as to why things were the way they were. And one of those kids reached out to me. Okay, this is going back in 2006. One of those kids reached out to me 2 years ago as a young man and said, I still remember going to this place when you were there. I still love hauntings. I'm now married, and my wife and I go to all of these different places to check out different things. And I always
Very
remembered what
cool.
you taught. And I thought, oh my God, this guy
You
is
always remember that first one, right? Especially as
yeah.
a child, they're so
Yeah.
impressionable. But
Yeah.
what I meant with the saints, where a lot of them were telling, was because the Vatican at that time would
Oh,
probably only
yes.
recognize the
Mhm.
Romans, not even the
Mhm.
rest of Italy.
Yes.
So that
And they were
came
sending people out
later.
everywhere as well, right?
Yes, but that, I think, when they started sainting and or canonizing, or whatever term they use, I think that started in a different century. I think that was more 19th and like
Mm.
late 18th, early 19th century, where
Mm.
the other ones came in. They were not very open to other cultures. Another child corrupted by Michelle.
I'm gonna
I'd be
forget you just
careful.
said
How are you?
that.
Mhm.
But this is actually a good statement, and it is true.
Yeah, it is true.
Going back
Not
to Ireland
when
and
I
things like
said
that.
the snakes, the government,
Yeah.
it was because she said he removed them from Ireland.
Right.
That's the only reason why I said it. Not
Yeah.
the government, but it could be a reference to knowledge, as many old cultures look to the snake as the bringer of knowledge.
Correct.
So does the medical
Remove the knowledge
society.
from
I actually have my medical alert actually has, you can't see it because it's gold, actually has the snake.
exactly.
My medical
Of the
alert bracelet.
DNA. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that's, if you think about it, you cannot, let's go back to the Garden of Eden. You cannot the
Mm.
snake
But
tempted
did
her.
it?
Knowledge. And right?
What
No,
did it?
but it
Was
comes
it a
down to
snake?
knowledge. You can't eat
Yeah,
from the tree of knowledge.
it's vernacular.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing with the Bible. That's why there's so many different interpretations. The vernacular, you have to understand the vernacular of the time in
Mhm.
order to be able to even, you know,
Micah Dank's
paraphrase
come on
it.
the show, and he elaborated on a lot of different things that not what they seem.
No, it's very confusing when
Mhm.
you're reading it.
Mhm.
It's I think Shakespeare is much easier to understand than the Bible at times.
Yeah.
And he spoke in riddles.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I love Shakespeare, but Wayne says removing the old pagan ways and bringing in the new church's thinking. Yes, that's how they recruited,
Mhm.
at least for the Christian church. That's how, because it wasn't a Catholic church yet. It was Christian church at
Mhm.
the time, I believe. And they just wanted them to be able to recruit by making their holidays and their festivals similar, which they're
Mhm.
basically the same thing. They just changed the names.
Well,
Christmas
they did.
trees
They
are one of them.
They merged the belief systems, and
Yes.
they
They took from
incorporated.
everywhere.
Well, they absolutely did, and again, some of it makes sense. When you take over a country and its people, you want them to. You don't want to come in and have a rebellion. You want to show them, look, we're friendly. We're going to celebrate your belief system, but you're going to have to do it with our belief system, and we're going to work together.
Yeah.
Over time, now you start seeing less and less, and so I
Except,
mean, it's proper business. I mean, it's smart,
yeah.
really.
I think
But
for the Italians, it's a little bit different because the Vatican is there, because they
mm,
are still 93% Catholic, where
right,
other European countries are not.
right,
And even with all the immigration and that, they're
mm,
still 93. But like I said, I think that has a lot to do with head office being right in the center.
of course, of
But
course.
yeah.
So it would be kind of cool to see if how haunted the Vatican is. Okay, let's think about
St.
that for a second.
Peter's, or
No, this Vatican City in average.
oh, I would
Let's
I would
talk
think
about
the
that for
whole
1 second. You
place
got a
would be.
place full of exorcists.
You have an exorcist school.
right?
With
Train an
all
exorcist.
kinds of films going constantly
I know.
out loud.
So I don't know. How haunted would you think Vatican City would be? Because on the grand scheme of things, it's big, but it's inside of Italy. You know, it's a little country inside of another country, which is kind of cool.
There's
I
2
think.
countries in Italy that
Yes,
exist that are not Italian. Yeah, not just
right.
the Vatican, there's another one.
But
Very,
let's
very
face it.
small medieval one that stayed to itself. It's actually on a mountain.
Yeah, see, that's where I would want to stay. But how haunted do you think that place would be? Do you think it would be more haunted
I
because
I
you're
would
always being
think so.
challenged, and we know it gets a little bit freaky over there with their beliefs and stuff. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of corruption in the Vatican, meaning the Vatican City. I mean, you've got the Vatican Bank, you have your own policing. It's
Yeah,
a
for sure.
whole other world. There's children that go missing. I mean, if you watch, if you want to know about one of the most horrific stories, watch the film. I believe the documentary is on Netflix called The Vatican
Vatican
Girl.
Girl was excellent,
Uh,
excellent. Yeah.
yeah, and she went missing out of Vatican City. Figure that one out. Okay, like it's just there's all
Mhm,
kinds of stuff going on.
mhm,
And my background is Roman Catholic, and there I don't practice it, but I still have some of their beliefs in the sense of the prayers, which to
mhm,
me is like a meditation, and that's a whole other show. It's a little bit different. I
mhm,
don't I don't follow the way the church runs, the organization part of it. I don't
mhm,
follow, but I do love the prayers and the saints, and I love the stories because to me that's history.
mm,
But the Vatican City has always rubbed me the wrong way.
mhm,
Always rubbed me the wrong way. The fact that they gate the city and it
mhm,
closes down between, I think it's 9 or 10 o'clock at night, depending on whether it's summer or winter
mm.
because of the darkness. They
Sure.
actually shut the city down and you can't get in until the next day, even if you live there.
Hmm.
Most people that live there work at the Vatican.
Mhm,
You don't get residents there because, it's very few that are born there.
mhm,
So it's usually because
mm.
someone you're related to works for them or for the bank or for the police.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a whole other show that could cause us a lot of trouble.
It could,
But
it
yeah,
could, but
yeah,
you
I
know.
think the Vatican Girl is a good way to start to understand the inner workings because you actually see it from the
Mhm,
inside of
mhm.
her brother and sister telling the story.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. It was a good show.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Diane's comment.
Thank you. Diane says, I was shocked Ireland's Catholic churches sit empty or
Mm.
closed in the 90s. I visited Ireland. Wow. I think there's so many of them too, though. And they're way out in the middle of nowhere, aren't they?
They're everywhere. It's like castles, or like they're everywhere,
Yeah.
you
But
know?
like Italy, you have them in the town, and then you have like one random one in the middle of where there used to be a
Mhm.
village, but now there isn't.
There isn't,
So
yes.
those are the ones that are
Mm,
there's no one in there. But
right.
they are ancient. Those churches
I
are
know, I love
ancient.
it. I
They're
love it.
gorgeous.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. Marshall, hi Marshall. Imagine all those ancient beliefs that were accepted and then removed, forgotten, and stored in the Vatican's vaults.
Oh,
Were
yes.
were they though? Did they store them or did they burn them? We'll never
Or did
know.
they burn them? I think anything that sits in the vaults was pretty much safe to say that they exist because nobody would have access to them.
Not even the Swiss.
Unlike the Library of Alexandria, which most of the ancient world had access to, so a lot of that stuff
Yeah.
was whatever they didn't take, they burned, right?
Yes.
But so I would
Sadly.
imagine anything there is safe because if they took it, they wanted it for a reason, and
There's a lot of
they'll
artwork.
never see the light of day, you
But there's a
know?
lot of artwork there. There's a lot like Dante Alighieri's full collection is there.
Mhm,
Da Vinci's work is
mhm,
there.
mhm.
So it can't be sold on the black market that we know of. Again, we don't know.
Right.
Nobody's been able to go in there and prove
Mhm.
what's there.
Right.
I believe that there are Swiss guards who guard the vaults.
Mm.
And the vaults are not like you think on the Da Vinci
Mhm.
film. The vaults run like kilometers at a time
Mhm.
underground.
Mhm.
It's not just this room with no air and Tom Hanks falls over
And
a
all
shelf.
and all
It's
neat
not like that.
yeah,
You have to
yeah.
think it's over 1,000 years
Yes.
of documentation and books and scrolls, and
And you have to be
these
careful.
things have to be
You
cared
can't
for
just
as
go grab
well.
it. That's right. The
No.
humidity has to be just right. The
Yeah.
temperature has to be just
They
right.
have to be
White
separated,
gloves.
they have to be
Yeah,
moved. There's all
yeah.
kinds of things because you're talking about paper,
Mhm.
which they called papyrus at the time with the
Yeah.
scrolls that would crumble, which
Mhm.
is another reason why the transcription of the Bible is so confusing because they were reading from scrolls that literally fell apart in their hands, and the Aramaic of that day no one could translate. So they kind of guessed
Well, the Dead Sea
around it.
Scrolls are in a museum right now, and
Yeah.
it took decades, like, literally, to be they had to be very meticulous about putting these little bits and pieces
My
together. Not
God. Yes.
everything it's not like they could just
It's a
roll it out.
crazy
Some
no.
of it was, but
It
some of
would
it was
just go
painstakingly put into place and behind glass
yeah, they
and
don't wear latex gloves in the Vatican. They actually wear linen, I believe, or
yes,
cotton. They're white
linen, yeah,
cotton, and they toss them there. They can't transfer
that's right.
anything. Plastic would take
Yeah,
the inscription off of the papyrus. So,
yes, yes.
but it's secured by Swiss guards.
Mhm,
And like I said, it goes for kilometer upon kilometer
mhm.
under under the Vatican,
There's a lot of
under the
information
streets.
hidden there. I mean,
Yeah.
when they were renovating, the Kremlin, for example, which is like an off-limits
Such a
place, they
beautiful building.
it is, a lot of
Yeah.
Russia is. They
Yes, it's
went
gorgeous.
underground, and they found a whole other city underground, and it was believed that they even found an extraterrestrial skull, actually.
Oh,
And, yeah, I mean,
cool.
how many like, so much information is buried. It's
Oh, I believe
buried, and it
yeah, that's
and
under there too.
well, when I was in Greece, they just finished doing an excavation in a building that they just found. Some places actually care about, you want to put in a parking lot. Well, you don't get to do that till we excavate it and see what's there. And then they get in and find this whole other world, and they excavate and they get in there and painstakingly pull out everything from underground. If
Mhm.
it's a full structure, and if you got mosaics, and sorry, dude, you don't get your parking lot. You now have another
No.
historic site. But if it's
Yeah.
just artifacts, they'll pull it out, and then you get to do what it is you want to do with the property.
Yeah, they've excavated some amazing places.
Oh, for
The
sure.
cat
For sure.
Dan asked if the catacombs are there. Catacombs are all over Europe.
They
They're in
are. The most
Paris, they're
popular
in
ones are
Rome.
in Edinburgh, of course,
Yes.
and Paris, and
Paris is the famous one, but there is
they're
in Italy,
everywhere.
they have catacombs as well.
Yeah,
That's how they used
everywhere.
to bury their dead before. So, because
Mhm.
they didn't have land and they were in small areas, they would just dig and put their bones in the
Well,
wall
after
to
a
take up less
while
space.
yeah, and after a while, I mean, a family would get 100 years out of something. And every time you have a city that would build over top of city, and the cemeteries would get full. So, when you went to Bone, if you were lucky, you got 100 years, being some of the more prominent
Yeah.
families. But man, once you went to Bone, you went to the catacombs, and then they would start again,
Yes.
and it's phenomenal stuff.
I think
If you
that's
go back to the time even in Jerusalem, and they would, they had ossuaries, and they would basically let you sit there for 2 years, and then the bones would go in these little boxes, these ossuaries, and then they would get walled up. There's just lack of space more than anything, right? So
she recalls a past life in catacombs. 1523 was killed.
interesting. Figure out which one those were,
Yeah.
and then go visit. That'd be cool.
Ooh.
I was like, no, I'm
I
good.
don't know.
I'm all right. I don't think I need to go to those extremes. It's
Uh,
cool to go to a place where
you
you've had
died?
a past life. Well, maybe
If you
not so
need the
much where you
closure,
die,
maybe.
but
Yeah.
places that you've been, because I've done that, and I'll tell you something,
Yes.
it is a freaky feeling to walk through the steps somewhere where you know you could possibly have walked before.
Wait till
It's
we go to Scotland together.
a woohoo.
Holy crap.
Yeah, craziness.
Well, having a life there. And yeah, it would be. It'd be very interesting. I'm definitely going to need to record everything I say
Mm, yeah.
because I don't think I would remember like just enveloping all that energy and everything that it's saying and
Mm,
what the land tells you. I think it's fascinating.
yeah. Th- I don't know. I think everything you get
Edinburgh.
ripples,
Yes.
ripples in time, and I do think it's like a replay. When you can find, a clay bowl that you can play like a record and it gives you something. When you can listen to stone and hear echoes and hear
Yes.
it resonating, and oh my gosh.
Mhm.
But I wanted to say, because we're slowly getting up to, getting close to the top of the hour up there. But when we had Joshua Shapiro on last week, he was talking about crystal skulls and how
Mhm.
these the quartz especially,
Yeah.
how they resonate, and this energy thing. And he said you should try to find a skull that resonates with you. So then I'm just like, how do you do that? Just by going online, looking at a picture. I like to hold things, and
You have to touch it.
well, yes and no. I
Like
thought
a
that
skull in
too.
the caliber of what he has or like a
No,
crystal
no,
skull?
just well, there's crystal quartz. There's different types of quartz, right?
I have a sodalite one, which I
Mm.
resonate with that stone.
See, for me, I have different stones and crystal balls, and oh man, I got
Yeah.
so much stuff. It's ridiculous. But I looked at a picture of one, and and I was told look to Brazil, and I thought, okay, I looked to Brazil. I was trying for Peru or something like that, just a resin, because I wanted some of the quartz that maybe some of the original crystal skulls would have been made of. So, but somehow I got sucked over to Brazil, which is all pretty much one, one vast area. So, and I ended up with I saw one, and I'm thinking, I kept going back to him, going, this is like bizarre, but I'm like, okay. So I got it, and then I researched it after the fact, and everything I researched about it was exactly pretty much my personality. Like it just I was just kind of like, "Oh, okay." So now I'm
Mhm.
waiting for it to come in. It's going to be in within the week, just to see if it feels the same to me as it did, because I can hold it at that point.
Mhm. Nice.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's I
You
know
know,
when I bought I just have a little one. I have a couple but like
yep.
small and I was it was new to me. The whole thing was new to me, but I was drawn to it because when I first started meaning again after the NDEs. It was the sodalite stone that I was drawn to, and I
Mhm.
actually have an indentation in it from rubbing it when
So there you
I'm
go.
meditating. So that's why I was drawn to that. But the stone that I'm most drawn to is the Archangel Michael one.
Hmm.
Is the uh what's it called? The lapis.
Apps. Well,
Oh my
lapis.
god,
Yeah,
let's
it's a lapis stone, is what it is.
yeah, I have
Edgar,
them behind me.
Edgar
I yeah.
Casey. Edgar Casey meditated
Um,
with that stone.
did he?
So
Yeah.
yes,
I
but
have
I,
a beautiful shiny one, but again, like way behind me, twist myself. And I have the stone that uh see I have a terrible memory for the names, but I'm it's funny because my favorite colors are like lapis lazuli. Thank you,
yeah.
Diane. My favorite color, you know, my love red and stuff like that. But yet I'm drawn to blue
Mhm.
when it comes to stones
Yeah,
and
just say something
wellness and
within
metaphysical. I'm drawn
something
to blues
within
and greens,
something within your psyche is drawn to it. It could come from
right?
past life things,
Yeah,
like
like I painted my bedroom I painted, well, you know what I mean, it was painted a deep teal blue, which is a blue green.
mhm,
It's like when you don't really like a peacock, you don't really know what color you're picking, but I
right.
find the most peace
Mhm.
within those 4 walls.
Well, I know that
But
Joshua
yeah.
had mentioned that some of these stones actually, they communicate with each other. These
Oh
crystal
my
skulls,
gosh.
and and they in spirits will sometime come in, the spirit of the stone. and they
Ah,
do. Like
yes, yes.
he'll hear them, and people swear that they have these communications with their crystal skull. And again,
Mm-hmm.
it's all like I love black
That's so
amethyst and
cool. Yes.
smoky quartz
Quartz.
is like is like there is no black amethyst, it's smoky, but it has a little purple hue to it. And it was a very rare specimen as well that I found. So when I really got into dissecting it and researching it, I thought, okay, and it looks different as well as to how it was done, and it was hand done as
Funny.
well. So
Yeah.
I thought, okay, all right, we're gonna see how how that goes. And I've ordered myself a few little fun things.
Good for
Um,
you. You never do it for
well,
yourself.
me, it's more of a research thing for me. Everything is, So it's like, okay, okay. So well, there's an item coming in hopefully in the next few days that I'm gonna play around with and try. And if it works,
Mm-hmm.
or if they work, then we'll talk about it on the next, on the next open mic, because oh my God, it's one of those things like a synchronicity. You don't fart around with anything, you don't think about it, and then all of a sudden
No.
it comes up, and it keeps coming up, and I'm thinking, why does this keep coming up in my stream? So I looked it up and researched it a bit. I went, okay, that's interesting, whatever, and it was never a thought again after that. So anyhow, eventually I caved, and I went, I'm just gonna do it. And yeah, it was different.
Oh,
So
wow.
well, we'll see. We'll
Yeah, I
see.
love them. I love them, the crystal skulls. I think they're so cool.
Mm, we'll see. Because I mean, it's an understanding of it. I knew a lot about the ancient stuff. Yeah, you should go back and I think yeah, you did hear the show. It is an interesting phenomena,
Yeah.
and obviously a lot deeper than what we went into, and a lot of people research this to the nines with respects to the legends, and how there's supposed to be 13 or 12 or 13.
Mhm.
And I think Joshua said there was like a total like 52, like
You always
there's a
get
group
different
of them.
numbers when they come on. You notice that? I
Well,
think it's
because he
whatever.
claims that there's groups of them,
Yeah.
right? But some of them, okay, if you bring them all together, this big event's supposed to happen. But some of them you can never get to. They're
Yeah.
so deep down into the water, for example, or into a cave system, or I mean, you just don't know where they all are, and they haven't all been found. So,
Were
what
they buried
happened?
on purpose?
Apparently, but
Yeah.
they're, I mean, buried on purpose. I mean, you have water levels that are so high in some areas, but there may not have
True.
been water there back then.
True.
Like who knows? I
I know,
mean,
because you see some
ice
ocean
age.
floors and there's rocks,
Yeah,
and you're like, "Where's this
yeah,
rock formation from when it's sand?" Like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
You
I
know.
see that. I
So
understand that. Ah,
okay,
Adrian, allegedly
I
or
think it's meant
allegedly?
allegedly. Yeah.
Allegedly, the original crystal skulls were used to store knowledge from one person's mind and transferred to another person. A
Hmm.
pedestal and focused sunlight were involved. How
I
cool.
I
Registering
completely
information.
yes. I
Quartz.
I
Yes.
would completely go with that. And the fact that it's a skull that's used,
Well,
is
it
interesting
would
as well.
record.
The brain, right?
If you can
So I
record
don't
on
know.
vinyl, you can record on crystal.
On quartz, for sure you could.
Yeah.
For sure. I love it.
Oh,
Well, if you
hi,
think about it, a lot
Tamara.
of the real spirit boxes, most spirit boxes are made with a quartz crystal in them.
Yeah.
I had, even between the portal had it, and I had a really elaborate ghost box built. And, I don't use that one as much. And it had a quartz crystal in it. I have one of Frank's boxes, and I've got to get in to see if it actually has a quartz crystal. But to my knowledge, it
Probably
does.
does.
See what I mean? So there's something to be said for that transfer of energy through quartz. So it's just, and I
Yeah.
think you get into old parts of the world. I wanted the South American quartz because this seems to be where the hub of everything is, and it's still the same darn quartz or similar. I mean, it's out of the ground. It's not like it's just we see it on the store shelf. So it doesn't matter if you buy it off the store shelf. I mean, that's what I did. I just didn't like say, "Hey, go carve me a skull." You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it was hand carved, but it still came locally out of the ground there. And they give you like a history on it. And there are some artists who do these things, and you get certificates and all kinds of stuff. But again, doesn't mean you'll resonate with them. It really does have to be the right one. Like if you have one you resonate with and you're already connected to it, that's the one you should continue to use because you already established a connection with it. And apparently, when you can establish a connection, that's when it starts to really work for you. So maybe you
Mhm.
need to pick that guy back up and say, okay, because you were already connected to it. Some people have
That is so
multiple
cool.
ones that they work with. It's fascinating, and it's definitely something that I'm all for learning a little bit more about.
Mhm.
So we'll see. But
I
with
love
that,
stuff like that. I
so
took a lot of slack. I have a crucifix that has a crystal skull in the center of it, and I took a lot of flack from people for that who are Catholic. And I'm like, don't judge and make comments on something you don't understand. It's got nothing to do with the occult.
right, no, not at all,
No, it's
actually.
a Mexican cross. It's got everything to do with life. I'm like, this is so. One of my listeners made it for me. I'm like, you cannot.
But
Like,
Los
honestly,
Muertos, right? Day of the Dead. Like this is
yes,
something. There's a huge belief system
yeah.
there, and remember that belief system came from overseas. Boy, there's so much. You guys really got to go back and watch the Atlanta show too, because
Yeah.
holy crap, like there's stuff in there that's gonna be like we talked about a lot of stuff with that worldwide stuff. You know,
Steve says, "How about
oh.
good old Coral Castle in
That
Florida?"
that is interesting as to how it was built. It's believed that he had a device for levitation to do that. There's a lot of stuff with that.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And with that said, we are here. So
Yeah.
it was great. I'm glad we had the open mic tonight and came out and hung with you guys because it was a great segment and we got all of our Valentine Day stuff in there. We got to talk about a lot of other really interesting things, which is awesome. So, big thank you to all of you guys in the chat room and all of you guys out there listening. We appreciate you all so very much. And
Mhm.
we really do love you. Hence why we're here. You guys are like our Valentines. We love it. Anyway, big thank you to Folgers
Happy
Coffee for
Valentine's.
sponsoring our show tonight and pretty much every night that we're on. So thank you. Big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for his intro. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis for his artwork here on the show. Next week or not next week. Oh my God, we're only Wednesday. Tomorrow night. I'm really looking forward to this. I know I am in just so much darn trouble. So, tomorrow night, for the very first time, we welcome Nancy Thames, a former Department of Defense employee
Oh my
and
gosh.
a lifelong contactee of extraterrestrial beings. This has emerged as a significant voice. She has emerged as a
She's
significant voice in the realm of alien disclosure and spiritual awakening. See, I love this. Like
she's
the
former
whole
DDA. My God, this
alien
is really big.
disclosure,
Yeah.
spiritual awakening. I love it.
Where she's coming from, this is huge.
This is really awesome. And I am super, super looking forward to it. Yeah, that would be great. So thank you guys
Happy
all.
Valentine's.
Oh my goodness. I know every now and then she makes it. Sorry, I had her on a few weeks ago. Yeah. Well, when she approached us, I went, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Sounds like my cup of tea, so to speak. And yes. So, but anyway, guys, thank you all for tuning in. And we will see you all tomorrow night. Hopefully, you can all make it back and listen to this intriguing lady and see what she's got to say. Have a good evening. And for those of you out the other side of the world, have a great day when you wake. Good night.